You're listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 176. On today's podcast, we are joined by a real life knight, and a lady knight at that. So you're a very, very rare breed, Kelly. We are joined by Kelly Ude-Martinez. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited about this one.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I've actually already had my husband say, where is the podcast with the knight? So I'm recording it now. I'm so excited. So Kelly is a masterminder, so I have the pleasure of knowing Kelly through Mastermind, but loads of people will have seen you in action as well. So can you tell us a bit about you and what you do now?
Yes, absolutely. So I am a horsey girl through and through. I, at 3 years old, announced that I wanted to learn to ride ponies. I mean, what 3-year-old girl doesn't want to ride ponies? I did, and that was that. I started riding horses at 5 years old, and they've literally been my life ever since. I grew up through pony club and found my way into jousting and sort of the performance and stunt world, and here I am running the Knights of Middle England with my husband.
And how did you find your way there? Because I've been riding forever, and I did not find my way in this direction. I went for eventing. So how did you find your way into this side of things?
Well, that was what I was very much doing as a teenager. I was in the pony club and I was eventing and show jumping, and I had 2 horses. I had a horse I show jumped, I had a horse I evented, and that was, you know, the goal. As a 15-year-old, I wanted to be a professional event rider, and that was going to be the plan. And then at 15, I discovered polo through a family friend. We used to go and watch them play, and I thought that looked really cool, and I'd quite like to play polo. At which point my dad said, absolutely not. You've already got these competition horses, you'll carry on competing. So I did, that was fair enough. And then for my 18th birthday, my dad bought me some polo lessons, and I started playing polo and was absolutely hooked. Sold the competition horses, bought myself a polo pony, and played polo for about 4 or 5 years. And it was whilst I was playing polo that I learned about jousting and the Knights of Middle England through Carl, who is now my husband, because he was playing polo professionally and running the jousting team. And there's a lot of crossover with the horses as well. So we take a lot of polo ponies and teach them the jousting. And it just looked really fun. And I think part of why I got into the polo as well is obviously coming up through pony club, you do all your normal disciplines, as we call them, your conventional riding, your dressage, your show jumping, your Olympic disciplines, as it were. And it was just something different and a bit exciting. I'm a total adrenaline junkie. I think it's quite obviously kind of need to be with the work I do. And it was just something different and really fun. And I thought, you know what, I wouldn't mind giving this a go. And I just fell in love with it. I've always loved performing. So I did a lot of drama at school. And so I love being on a stage. And this sort of took those 2 things, the horses and the performing, and they just came together beautifully. And I started getting involved here and there a little bit whilst I was at university, doing a bit of work in holidays and weekends and things like that. And I'd just fallen in love with it. And 14 years later, here I am.
So it sounds a stupid question, but I know you said there's a lot of crossover between polo and the jousting. Obviously in polo, the horses need to be incredibly nimble, be able to twirl around on a hoof at a moment's notice. Are the skills quite similar?
Yes, especially with the type of displays and the teaching as well that we do. So if you think for jousting, you have 12-foot lance in one hand. So you have to have your reins only in one hand. So we use neck reining. So obviously same for the polo. You've got polo mallet in one hand, reins in the other. And the thing with polo ponies is they're used to charging around with other horses. So one of the main things with teaching a horse to joust, obviously there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of colour, but one of the really big things is another horse running at them. And actually a lot of the horses that come out to polo, they're quite used to that from being on the polo field, you know, because obviously most equestrian disciplines, you're out there just you and your horse, you know, unless you're in a unaffiliated show jumping warm-up, which is usually carnage.
Very much the same. Running at you, do you give up, do you not?
Yeah, exactly. You know, usually you and your horse are there on your own. So there's very few environments apart from, you know, polo cross horseball, where lots of horses are kind of in together, and it's just the type of temperament that the horses have that do those kinds of sports generally cross over well into the jousting. So we take a lot out of polo. It's not as demanding, obviously, like you say, the polo there, start, stop, turn, go, and it can be quite strenuous. So we take a lot of horses that perhaps they're not quite up to playing top level polo anymore, but they're still perfectly sound and fit and healthy, and we can give them a second career sort of then in their teenage years as jousting horses. The jousting we do as well, we're very much about high action, high energy stunt displays. So it's not sort of fat old men on fat old horses, you know, we're going fast, we're galloping, we've got things on fire, we've got pyros, we've got special effects. It's exciting. So the thoroughbreds, obviously a lot of the thoroughbreds are in polo. We take a lot out of racing and retrain them as well. So you want that speed and agility of the thoroughbred for the display. So the polo ponies make great jousting horses. So it was via polo that I kind of found my way into this world.
And what was it like the first time? Because I appreciate you saying, you know, when you're playing polo, you've got a mallet and you've got your reins in one hand. That must be quite different to having a lance galloping flat out. I mean, then you've got all the outfit, all the armor. What did it feel like the first time? Was it really, really difficult? It looks incredibly difficult.
It's a lot. It is a lot. You've got so again, we're not reenactors, we're stunt performers. So we're not wearing full metal. We do wear some plate metal armor, but it's lighter. We use a lot of film and costume armor. But the helms especially are full steel helms. They have to be, because obviously safety is really important. So it's quite a lot to wear. The helms are quite heavy on the head. You then have the visor down, so you have a very restricted vision. That you literally have, I don't know, maybe half an inch to an inch gap that you're looking out of. You lose your peripheral vision. You lose being able to see the horse underneath you. And then you've got a shield on your left arm, which probably weighs 4 or 5 kilograms, that you have to hold in your left arm with your reins. You have to present that out away from your body to take the hit, that again, it's safe, it's not going to come into your body. And your reins are in that hand, and you've got to ride the horse, and you've got a 12-foot lance, you've got to hit someone else whilst they're hitting you. So it's a lot, and it does feel a lot when you first start, but all the training, you know, you build it up gradually over time. You practice like anything, you build up the strength, you build up the muscle memory. And the key thing for me coming into it, obviously growing up on the back of horses, it's not a conscious effort for me to have to ride the horse. You know, that's the bit. I don't really have to worry about the horse and riding the horse, because I'm obviously really comfortable doing that, so I can focus on the actual jousting. But then when you sort of get to that level and you're doing it, it's then, you know, it's just really cool, it's really fun.
And would I be right in saying that it's not something that many women do?
No, not at all. That is something that is changing, and because obviously we do our shows and displays, we have the teaching side to what we do as well, and we're very unique in that, and we are seeing more and more women coming through. And of the public that we teach at an amateur level, I would say we have 50-50 men and women these days, which is really great to see. But there are a lot more now than there used to be, but it's still very much male dominated industry, obviously, because it is physically a lot more demanding, and women aren't naturally built to have the same levels of upper body strength that the men do. So we just have to work a little bit harder and rely on technique as much as just brute strength.
And I know that your team are completely awesome. I mean, I know I've seen I was actually talking to my husband about this morning. You did, I want to say it was an Instagram story of your group singing a bit of Moana after, was that when you were at Warwick Castle?
Yes.
And they just seem like the best bunch. But was it quite difficult for you initially to get involved with the jousting because you were female, or has everyone always been very accepting? Or I know obviously you've worked with different people, but how's that been? Because if you're kind of the anomaly,
yes,
it's a bit of a strange one, isn't it?
These days it's a lot better than it used to be. Obviously coming onto the team Carl was always brilliant and obviously very accepting and welcoming to having women on the team. One of the big things a few years ago is there would be venues and clients who wouldn't want to see a woman jousting in the show. They would want men jousting because historically that's how it would have been. Whereas now we have the opposite. Everyone loves a female knight, and all the clients, love to see a woman out there holding her own and beating the boys. And there have been, sort of from a professional point of view, again, it's a lot better now than it used to be, but I did used to have issues with other professionals having the same level of respect from them as a woman. But it is something that's improving all the time.
I suppose, as you say, if you're having to work harder and you have to make sure your technique is absolutely bang on, I would hope that they'd very quickly realise that you're more than a worthy match.
Yes. Now, I like to think, as soon as they've seen me out there jousting, I'm, more than confident that I can hold my own out there to prove that I can do it just as well as they can. So,
yeah, I mean, honestly, you would terrify me in all your kit coming towards me, regardless, because you're not just a knight. As you say, you also do stunts, horse archery, side saddle. Can you talk to us about all these different bits and how you got into all of them? Obviously, we know how you got into the being a knight, which is so cool. But then did that kind of lead into stunt work? So I know you do bits of that as well, and you do that as kind of part of the Knights of Middle England as well, don't you?
Yes. So I have Carl and the Knights of Middle England and him to thank for everything that I've learned, because I have learned it all since being here. So obviously I started with the jousting, and 10 years ago we were mainly a jousting company and a jousting team, and we've really grown and developed over the last 10 to 15 years. And now we do jousting, horse archery, trick riding and stunt riding, and side saddle are sort of like the 4 pillars, if you were, to the business. And I do all of those things. So I've learned all those skills over the years through being here as a part of the Knights of Middle England team.
So what is the difference between stunt and trick riding, or are they essentially the same?
They are trick riding is quite specifically its own art form discipline in its own right. Stunt riding is sort of a broader term that would cover more things. And there are people who perhaps do stunt riding who don't necessarily do a lot of trick riding, and there will be trick riders who are pure trick riders who won't necessarily do some of the other stunts that stunt riders do. So stunt riding would be things like stunt type work on, say, film and TV, so falling from horses, sort of set stunts and things like that, whereas the trick riding is sort of an art form and a discipline specifically in itself. So there's some overlap, but you could also split them as well.
I get you. And obviously side saddle is probably the one that most of us more conventional horsey folk
I would say it's the most normal thing we do.
Yeah, will have seen. I've had a go. I did not enjoy it at all. I felt very unbalanced, like I was about to fall off backwards, but I have rubbish balance anyway. That's why it's better to be astride if you're me, because at least you have a chance of staying on. But have you, obviously you teach that, you ride that. What else do you sort of do within that, and how did you get into that?
So the side saddle has sort of come just as a branch of wanting to expand what we do. We have a sort of an ethos that we're really passionate about growing the equestrian world and the equestrian industry. Obviously, your dressage, your show jumping, eventing get plenty of airtime within the equestrian industry, but there are all these other disciplines that get kind of pigeonholed as these sort of maybe slightly quirky niche things that we are just really passionate about making them more accessible to everyone, and just trying to encourage people into them and grow them as disciplines in their own right. So we have a fantastic side saddle instructor here with us, Tanya, who is wonderful, and she's been really helping us grow the side saddle here. Obviously, it has a link in with performance and filming work we do, period dramas and all that kind of thing, very popular at the moment. Who doesn't love a bit of Bridgerton?
Too right.
So it's seeing a lot of we're seeing a lot of popularity and a lot of growth with it. And also we like to bring it into some of the more standard stuff as well. So we do side saddle horse archery.
Horse archery is my next question. I didn't know you did side saddle horse archery as well, because it sounds terrifying enough. I am a wimp, for the record. I like I like my feet on the ground. I like the horse's feet on the ground, most of them at the same time. And I like to have a bridle, and I like to be able to feel like I've got some input.
Bridles are, well, they have their place, but you don't always need one of those.
Oh my goodness. So let's go horse archery, and then we go back to side saddle. So horse archery, when you first said that you did it, I thought, God, the reins would really get in the way, because you've got your arrow and your bow and the horse. I misjudged that situation, didn't I? I counted on a few too many bits there.
Yes, you've only got 2 hands, so there's no hand available for reins. We don't have those.
So talk to me about how this works.
Okay, so you're not just randomly in a field or an arena, shooting live arrows at targets. You do have a run set up. So you basically create a corridor and a track, and you train the horses that they run down the corridor, no reins. So you tie a knot in them, attach them to the saddle, slip them under a neck strap so that they stay where they are, or do it bridleless. It's another option. But the horse is trained to ride down the run whilst you're shooting your arrows into your target. So there is control. It's just not with your reins.
No, that's fair enough. And then you do that side saddle as well?
Yes, just for fun.
Why not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And not only do you do a lot of performances, do you use all of these elements in performances? Because your summers can be I know this summer was back-to-back madness, wasn't it?
Yes. So all of these disciplines, all of these skills that we have, we do take into the shows and the performances depending on the setting, the period. So we do horse archery in the shows, obviously we joust, we do the stunt riding, the trick riding, and we'll bring side saddle in for characters as well. And even within medieval shows, obviously, queens, princess characters riding side saddle rather than astride. So they're all skills that feed into the performance side of what we do.
And so this summer, I know you're at Warwick Castle a lot. I'm sure you're going to tell me some other places you are. I hope so, because I have not written everything down. How does it work with the performance? Do you just kind of you're booked there and you just crack on, or do you plan, do you rehearse, how does it all work?
So yes, we have Warwick Castle we have a residency there, so we are there every summer performing. We do a show called Wars of the Roses Live, which tells the story of the Wars of the Roses, so 30 years of the Civil War in 30 minutes, and it sort of is a very entertaining history lesson, but it's not your average history lesson. Obviously, take home a bit of history but be entertained. It's proper good British family entertainment. And then we do our shows. We travel to game fairs, horse trials, county shows, other castles. So we go to Blenheim Palace, we go to Hedingham Castle. We did a big jousting festival called the Lockswood Joust down near Guildford this year. We'll do private events, weddings, birthday parties, all sorts. And different shows have different. So the Warwick Castle show is obviously a big, so we get a team in specifically for that show for the summer. We have a rehearsal period, and that's sort of an entity on its own. And then our other weekend shows, we'll have another team that will go and do those, and we sort of have a format that we use, and then we bespoke each show up depending on what the venue would like, and sort of go and perform there as well.
So the summer is really a really, really busy time for you from the performing side point of view.
Yeah, it's very seasonal in this country. Obviously, winters we don't do outdoor events, so we'll do perhaps Christmas and indoor shows and things like that. But obviously in this country, generally it's the summer season when everyone's out going to the game fairs and the county shows and that kind of thing.
And obviously there's the teaching side of your business as well. And does that help to, as you say, the performances are very, very seasonal? What do you do in the winter?
Yeah, so the winter is very much teaching time. So we have the school where we teach the general public. It's also the time that we'll use to train up new horses ready for the season ahead, because obviously with everything we do, you can't just go out, grab a horse and go straight off jousting and trick riding. So it takes a lot of training for the horses. So winter is teaching time in all aspects.
Awesome. I know you said about that you have people come for lessons, but are these just people who want to be a professional trick rider, a professional jouster, professional? Is it a jouster or is it a knight?
Both.
Excellent.
Both the wash. I'll take both. Yeah. All levels. So we have people who come for lessons who just want to do it as a hobby and want to do something different. And then we'll take people who want to do it professionally and we'll train them up to a professional level where they then go and work in the industry. So we'll across the whole spectrum. And we do experience days as well, where we'll even take non-riders, that they can come and do an experience day in jousting, horse archery or trick riding.
And they can be non-riders?
Non-riders, yeah.
Your horses must be absolute saints, because that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to have a non-rider starting out. You know, you have to be careful with the horse selection. Then you want to give them confidence and get them to have an amazing time, but let alone when it's something that tricky.
Yes. So obviously it's done on a very safe, broken down basis. We don't just chuck someone on a horse, give them a helm, lance and shield and be like, well, hey, give it a slap on the bum and off you go. It's all done, you know, we're all qualified instructors, and it's all done on a broken down level. But it does give people an opportunity to literally be a knight for the day, come to night school, put a bit of costume on and sort of experience life as a knight for a day. And our horses are just wonderful. We have some fantastic horses, but it's amazing how the non-riders, you give them something to do other than having to just worry about riding the horse. Since they've got a lance in their hand and they have to try and hit the target or collect the ring on the end, giving them that focus, it's amazing how they just crack on with the riding and do it. I mean, they don't really know any different. So
no, that's a fair point.
It's very impressive what someone can learn over the course of a few hours who's never been sat on a horse before.
No, that's a really good point. So thinking about your whole journey, what have the lows been along the way? We're going to go highs. I do always say, sort of, don't worry, we're not just going to go for the depressing subjects and move on. But what have the lows been along the journey? Because I mean, especially over the last 18 months must have been incredibly challenging. But what have the lows been on your journey?
Oh gosh. Definitely the last 18 months have been the toughest we've been through, especially because obviously financially keeping the business afloat. There was no furlough for the horses.
No,
they still had to be fed, worked, looked after. So you can't furlough your staff because you need them to be working to look after the horses. So that was really tough, and wanting to look after our team and keep our staff on as much as possible, keep the horses going. And it would have been very easy to sell horses, but again, they take so much training and the work that's gone into them. You can't just then the next year get new ones in and start again. Years of training go into them. So that was really tough, and I don't think the sort of the level of burnout we reached, because we couldn't stop. There was, you just had to keep going every day to keep things going.
Because you lost your entire schedule, didn't you?
2020 we lost our entire show season. We didn't do a single performance all year.
And how many horses have you got? How many horses do you have?
So we have approximately 30 horses.
That's a significant outgoing to look after 30 horses well, let alone if you have got no income. Because also from the riding school point of view,
half of them didn't earn any money, because so we have sort of our school horses and our show horses. There's a couple that will cross over, but they're very different in what they need to do. So our show horses didn't earn anything for a full year. A little longer almost, because obviously the show season finishes around September, October time. So then we'd already been through the winter. The summer then, when we should be performing, we didn't do anything. We went straight into another winter.
Yeah.
And even the teaching, the school side was so restricted. Obviously, that was closed for a lot of the time. And then when we could open, all of our big group days we couldn't run. So it was lots of private lessons or very small sessions. And again, it's so it was really tough. And everyone, we knuckled down, we worked hard, we've got through it, and we've just come off the back of a even busier summer because of it, and that's almost the flip side. Is this year we had an incredible year, but that was really, really hard. And personally, I've reached a level of burnout that I didn't think was possible. But you still just have to get up in the morning and keep going, and that was really tough.
They don't understand, do they?
No. Yeah, it's been tough, but we kept going. We survived. We've come out the other side. So.
Absolutely. And with bells on, I mean, now we get to the highs. You've had quite a lot on the last year, haven't you?
Yes. And this summer has been fantastic. We just said yes to everything because we had to, and sort of a little bit perhaps took on, not too much, but more than we would have done in a normal year if we'd have had a normal year. So then, and that's been what's been tough, is coming out of the back of COVID and all the struggles that we had from that, and not having a chance to rest or recuperate from that, and going straight into then a really busy summer. We sort of hit September and we're pretty exhausted, but in a great way. And to be able to have our team back, our full show team, and be out there performing. The first show we did, we were at Blenheim Palace over May bank holiday, I think it was, and going out into that arena, the first show on the first day, was very emotional.
I can imagine, because it did feel like last year it was never going to get back to normal. And
it was so good to be back out entertaining, performing, for us and for the people as well. It's the arts and entertainment industry as a whole, obviously just ground to a halt. It was the first thing to be shut down, and it's been the last thing to get back up and running. And to be able to get back out there and do what we do best and what we love most, because obviously we love the teaching and the side of that, but for us, it's our passion really is the performing and the shows. So to not been able to do that and have that outlet for so long, to get back into it this summer was incredible. To be back out, to hear those crowds cheering, and to be back out performing again, and to hear then the feedback from people saying how great it's been to have us back, and to be out being entertained and doing the shows has been absolutely incredible.
And I imagine that is, as you say, that's the biggest high, even though there are different things that I'm sure you have done throughout your entire career that have been real highs. After such a tough year, that just must have been it.
It was extra special this year, definitely.
Didn't you also have ESME pop over?
We did, yes. She's brilliant. She came and tried her hand at horse archery and jousting for her Challenge ESME series. That was a lot of fun. We had a good couple of days with her doing that. That was brilliant.
And great to get what you do out to different people, more people, younger people.
Yes.
Make it more accessible as well, I think, because again, when you see these amazing stunts happening as a viewer, they obviously are very difficult, but the fact that you teach it and you have the ability to train people is a really good thing to be talking about.
Yes, it definitely bridges that gap of making it seem accessible and possible to anyone. And obviously, especially ESME, she's such a great role model for young girls and young women. And it's a lot of, again, coming back to being a woman in the industry and as a female knight, I get a lot of messages about that as well, from mums and dads, as well as from the girls themselves, having a woman out there fighting for herself, doing it for herself, is incredible.
I have got that on my notes, because I remember I was chatting to you, I think it might have been on a Tea Break Tuesday, and you said about you had that experience with someone who they came to you to a show?
Yes.
Those must be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds really dramatic to say it, but literally changing a young girl's life from her seeing the shows, seeing what we do, what I do, and wanting to be like me when she grows up. I mean, that in itself is just an incredible feeling, that I can be inspiring these young girls. It almost seems a bit surreal, that I'm just living my life, doing my job. But it's wonderful. And yeah, she had a few issues that she was struggling with personally herself, and I just had a conversation with her one day after the show, and it just changed something for her, that she then was able to and willing to make changes in her own life, which is going to improve her life so much. So yeah, it's really incredible.
That's awesome.
And it's crazy that I'm literally just going out there and doing my job, and that it can have that effect is really wonderful. And that is why I love what I do the most, from the performance side and also the teaching side. The difference we can make in people's lives, the boost it gives them for their physical well-being, being outside in the fresh air doing something, and their mental health as well, is, especially, we've had a lot of people that have come back to their lessons and their training through COVID, and being able to come and do the activities. And yeah, it's really good that something that, you know, it can be so much more than just a show, just a hobby, that it can mean that much to people is really incredible.
Definitely. And do you have any advice? I mean, not necessarily about getting into what you do, although it'd be awesome to have some advice around there, but being that kind of odd one out, having to work harder, have you got any tips you can share around that?
It's really hard, but you just have to have the confidence in yourself to keep pushing. And especially trying to get into industries that are quite niche and quite pigeonholed. The trick riding and the stunt worlds is renowned for being very cliquey and very closed doors, and previously very unwelcoming to new people that didn't already have a connection. It was very much an industry that was all about who you knew. And that is changing. And I think as the next generation are coming through, they're so much more willing to open their doors, share their skills and teach. And obviously with things like Instagram and YouTube now, like the information is so much more out there. You know, you can go onto YouTube and there are some fabulous people out there putting out videos on liberty training, and that kind of side. And you know, the trick riding, there are professional trick riders now who are really willing to teach and want to bring new people into the industry and teach and share their skills, which is wonderful, because before it was, again, very closed doors, and that doesn't help the industry then grow. We need to bring people, and this is why we're so passionate with what we do with the teaching. And again, when we first started, we got a lot of stick from other people in the industry that we were teaching. And it was like, you know, you shouldn't be sharing the skills. You know, they're so afraid that if you teach someone else, they might take something from you, rather than growing it as a whole. So it's, you know, don't be afraid. You have to not be afraid to put yourself out there, to send that email to the company that, yeah, we get emails on a regular basis of just really interested in this, like, how do I get going, what do I do, where do I start? And just that is where you start by just asking the questions, and keep asking. And you won't always get responses, you know, and you might get a no, you might not even get an answer, but you just have to, if you really want it and you're passionate enough about doing it, obviously you've got to keep pressing and keep pushing, knocking on those doors, because eventually someone will let you in. And then you just have to not be afraid to work hard for what you want.
I think they're kind of words to live by, not just in this, but
in any industry, in any.
Absolutely. You won't always get a yes, but if you don't send that message, you're definitely going to get a no, because how can you learn? And I think you're right. There are so many industries that used to be very closed, and now there are a lot more people saying, I can teach you how to do this, I can share this, and that just expands everything, and it's just a nicer place to be. But yeah, you've got to ask those questions. You've got to ask those questions and keep going and doing that research, and as you say, the hard work, because you can sometimes get through the door, but you're not going to stay in the room if you're not putting in that graft.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to share before I ask you where everybody can find you? Because I know you've got personal accounts, you've got the business accounts. Kelly is just awesome to follow, and actually check out her wedding pictures as well, because they're just jeweled, because you managed to fit that in this summer as well.
Oh yeah, we squeezed in a cheeky little wedding. Yes, that was that was incredible. We were supposed to get married in 2020, obviously had to cancel because of COVID. So we still had a smaller, it was only 30 people. It was very different from what it originally should have been. But that was lovely, a lovely little day in the midst of a crazy year. But yes, and we were very lucky to Sam Churchill, who did our photos, was incredible. So we're very lucky to have some beautiful pictures.
Yeah, you definitely need to go and look at those. If you're listening to this, just go now. I mean, listen to the end of this, then go. Obviously. Is there anything else you'd like to share before I ask you all your contact details?
No, all I would say is, if you are interested in any of the disciplines that we've talked about today, then please do get in touch with us at the Knights of Middle England. As I said, the big thing is, if you're sat there thinking, listening to this going, oh, I'd love to have a go, but it's not for me, or I'm not a good enough rider, or I'm not a confident enough rider. You absolutely are. Come and give it a go, because you won't regret it. They are so good for your riding, to push yourself in these new skills, the transferable skills. We have so many riders who come. I have eventers who come trick riding, not because they want to be trick riders, but because they want to improve their balance, their coordination, and their awareness on the horse, that actually, if they're going cross country and a horse leaves a leg over a fence and perhaps they lose their balance, they know they can get to a point where they can save themselves and pick the horse up and perhaps prevent a fall.
That's really cool, because you hear about people that jump, show jumpers have flat work lessons to improve that. But as you say, if you're looking to break each part of what you do down, trying to save yourself when the ground is getting ever so close, big old win. I mean, it can save you. It can obviously save injury and everything, but it can save you a lot of points as well if you're around a cross country course. And
and it can build your confidence. If you're doing horse archery, you're cantering down a track, shooting bows and arrows, and you're not holding onto your reins. We have so many riders who come, who just taking their reins off them and asking to ride with no reins is such a challenge. But if you can do that, if you can come for a trick riding lesson, and then actually it's amazing what it can do to build your confidence when you go back to your flat work or your jumping or something else. So, if you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure if it's for me, come and give it a go, because we promise you'll have an incredible experience in any of the disciplines: the jousting, the horse archery, the trick riding, the side saddle, the liberty training, is fantastic. Again, you don't have to come for liberty lessons because you want to be a liberty artist. It can help improve your connection with your horse, their manners on the ground, just the communication between you and your horse. There's so much that these, what are quite often pigeonholed as these quirky, unique, weird little disciplines, can bring to equestrianism as a whole. So if you're interested, please do get in touch and come and have a go, and come and see us in action at our shows. We obviously, show season is winding up now for this year, but we will be back at Warwick Castle over the October half term for Halloween, not jousting, but we may have a headless horseman there providing some character entertainment. And Warwick Castle have a fantastic Halloween lineup of family entertainment. So if you're you want something to do this Halloween, then do come down and see us at Warwick Castle.
I'm going to have a look at that, because I've been trying to find something nice to do with the boys that week, and a lot of things are booked up because they're having to do just a few little things. That sounds awesome. You can't beat a headless horseman, can you?
No, absolutely not. Bonus points if you can find the head. And then we will be back performing next year at Warwick Castle in the summer. And I think we're kicking off our season next year over Easter, where we're down at Hedingham Castle, and then we'll be at Blenheim Palace in May as well. So lots to look forward to.
So tell us all the places we can find out about you as you, and you as the Knights of Middle England as well.
So me as me, I am on Instagram as the Cowbells, and then obviously we are Knights of Middle England on Instagram. Which we are also the Knights. You can search for the Knights of Middle England on Facebook, you'll find us there as well, but Instagram is where we are most active, and obviously our website is knightsofmiddleengland.com.
And can you look at lessons and things like that through the website as well?
Yes, we're in the middle of a huge website revamp. So hopefully by the beginning of November, our new website will be live. We're just tweaking the last final things, but all the information about what we do is on our website. Otherwise, please do drop us a DM or an email, and any questions anyone might have, then we'd love to talk to them.
Definitely. I would definitely urge people as well to go and have a look at the Knights of Middle England social media, because you do get to see a lot of the things we've talked about. You get to see the videos, you get to see the outfits. If you watch the stories at the right time, you'll also get to hear a little bit of Moana, which
yes, we have a very talented musical team. Our crew are wonderful. We have a great bunch of people. They're very talented on the horses and off the horses, and there is a lot of singing.
Can't beat a bit of singing. I'm with you on that. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been so great to talk to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.